Hi, are you looking to transfer your ISA funds from one provider to another provider? Then you need to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what is the right mechanism for transferring your ISA funds from one provider to another, explain why it's important to make sure you follow the right process and protect your ISA allowances from previous years. And I'll also be doing a live example of transferring an ISA fund right into Trading212.
Get strong.
Hello and welcome to The Nimble Nomad. My name is Arjun, and on this channel we talk about the tips, tricks and hacks to survive and thrive in the UK. I talk about a lot of different topics on this channel, right from immigration in the UK to personal finance and property. And everything that I talk about is completely based on my personal experience. So there isn't anything here that I'm talking about that I haven't done personally myself. So in this video, I'm actually going to be talking about what is the right mechanism and way to transfer funds from one ISA provider to another, because it's really important to make sure that you follow the right process and protect your ISA allowance from previous years as well as the current year. Now, the main reason I'm actually doing this video is because over the course of 2020, I've actually been using my ISA shares and stocks account in order to invest money. And I've actually made quite a few mistakes as part of transferring money. So I thought it would be a good example or a good video topic to do to help out anybody else who's looking to transfer money from one ISA provider to another. And I also highlight why it is important to follow the right mechanism. Now, before I jump into the main topic for this video, I do want to highlight that I've done a separate video on what are the top 5 mistakes you should avoid while using an ISA account, and I'll add a link of that above in case you're interested. So before we get into it, let me just explain what is an ISA for those people who aren't familiar with an ISA. So an ISA stands for an individual savings account, and basically it's a savings account that is actually tax sheltered. So any income that you generate through investments or cash in the form of interest or dividend or capital gains actually is protected from taxation. So the easiest way to actually think about it is in a simple analogy that I like to think about, so you're all probably familiar with what this is. It's Captain America's shield, but the shield is made out of a special type of metal that protects him when he's in fights. But in this case, you need to think of the ISA as a shield against the bullets that you get from the government, which is taxation. So you don't get taxed on any income or funds that you hold within the ISA accounts. So this is a really important and good tool to have. The main thing and the only limitation with the ISA is that you have a limitation on how much money you can contribute into it every tax year. And this depends on each tax year. At the moment, for the year 2020-21, the tax year contribution limit for an ISA is £20,000. So each person or an adult in the UK can contribute up to a maximum of £20,000 into their ISA account. Now, there's different types of ISA accounts, but I won't get into that. But the sum total of all contributions to ISA accounts for this tax year is limited to £20,000. Now, let's get into actually what is the best way to transferring funds between two ISA accounts. So that you basically make sure that you don't lose out on that benefit that I just talked about, which is the 20,000 from this year or previous years. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to talk about use two examples. So one is a source ISA, which is where you currently are holding your funds, cash or stocks. And this is your target ISA. So you're saying that you want to transfer it to another provider. So this is from provider 1 and this is from provider 2. And this blue box represents that shield that I was talking about, which is the protection of an ISA sheltered account. So the wrong way actually of transferring. So before I get into the right way, I just want to explain what the incorrect way of transferring funds is. And the wrong way of doing it is you take the money from the source ISA and you transfer it into your current account. So this is contributions that you've already made into your source ISA, into the ISA account. You're withdrawing them, putting them into your normal bank account, and then you're transferring it into a target ISA account. Now the problem with this is actually that if the moment you withdraw any funds from an ISA account, you actually lose the benefit of those ISA funds. So after you've withdrawn it, those funds are not considered to be sheltered. So any funds that you're now transferring back into the ISA will be utilizing your current year's allowance. So if for example, you made £20,000 contribution in the tax year 2019 to 2020, and you withdrew it and then deposited it into your target, then you'd basically be losing your previous year's allowance and using your 2020 allowance. So that's a really, really bad thing in case you've made investments and then therefore you've lost that and any of that allowance for this year to utilize going forward. So the right way to actually do it is you initiate a transfer directly to the target ISA. And I'm going to walk through a live example, but basically each ISA provider has when you want to transfer to a new target ISA, you go to their website or their account and you basically say, I want to transfer funds from a particular ISA account. And most ISA providers will allow you to transfer funds by requesting it through a form. So when you request a form at your target ISA provider, they will initiate a process whereby they contact your source ISA for the amounts that you're requesting to transfer or the funds that you're requesting to transfer, and you will initiate the transfer. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that when you do this, you can transfer the funds in the form of pure cash, or you can transfer the funds in the form of cash, fund, and funds. But this completely depends on your ISA provider. So a lot of ISA providers, and especially the one that I'm going to talk about, which is Trading212 in a second, they actually prefer just cash to be transferred. They won't let you transfer funds. So this is something that you just need to keep in mind, but it is possible through this mechanism. All right, so now I'm going to actually walk through a live example of how do you actually initiate a transfer when you want to transfer funds from one ISA provider to another. And I've actually recently done this for my wife's account because she wanted to transfer her funds from her Vanguard ISA into her Trading212 ISA. So in order to do this, I'm just going to walk you through what was the process and steps, and I'll walk through that on screen. So let's get into that now. Right, so we're on Google now, but basically what you want to do is, let's just start by searching for what transfer ISA Trading212. And then immediately there's a link which shows up here. So you just click on that. And they have 3 simple instructions that you need to follow. So basically, as I said earlier, you need to fill out something called as the ISA Transfer Authority form that they call it here, Trading212, but it's basically an ISA transfer form. And then you need to fill that out. So you can download that, and I've downloaded it already. So this is what the authority transfer form looks like. It has some basic information that you need to fill out, which is your name, your date of birth, your national insurance number, which is really important, your trading 212 ISA account number, and some other personal details. You then fill out the declaration, which says that you agree that all of these terms and conditions that you agree to. The main one that you need to remember is that the Trading212 only accepts transfers in the form of cash, and they don't accept any funds. So this is what I was talking about. And so you fill that out, and then you finally provide details about the source provider. So the one that I was explaining to you. So in our case, it was Vanguard. And so you need to fill out what the account number is and what the provider details are. These are quite easy to get, usually from the provider's website. And then finally, you need to explain what are the funds that you're transferring. So in our case, and this is really important. So here you're actually talking about, are you transferring funds from this year's contribution, or are you transferring funds from previous year's contributions? So especially if you're using a stocks and shares ISA and you're transferring funds between ISAs for a stocks and shares ISA, you need to remember that you can only contribute to one stocks and shares ISA. This is a really important point that you must keep in mind. So if you're transferring any funds from a particular tax year, which is in this case 2020-21, from one stocks and shares ISA to another, then you need to contribute all the current year subscription transfers. So you'll need to transfer everything from that you've contributed into, say for example, in our situation, it's Vanguard. We put in £100 that you need to transfer the full £100 into the Trading212. And in the previous years, you can choose to transfer everything, or you can choose to make partial transfers. So here I could have put 3,000, I could put 20,000, I could put 30,000 if I've got that kind of funds and I've used those previous year allowances. So you summarize it, add up the number, put that here, fill in your name, your date, and you sign it. So once that's done, you scan this document, or if you've digitally filled it up and signed it, you do that. And then what you do is, just gonna get that. And then what you do is you attach the form to an email and send it off to isa@trading212.com. So the thing I want to clarify is that this isn't limited to just Trading212. Other providers, ISA providers, will also have similar options, but the form may vary. But it's a very simple and straightforward process. So that was a simple live example. The one thing I do want to clarify, what are the timelines for transferring your ISA from one provider to another? Obviously, the easiest way and the most instantaneous way would be the wrong way to withdraw the money out, put it into your current account, and then deposit it, because you could do that instantaneously because you have control over it. But you'd lose your allowance. So what are the actual timelines for using this mechanism of sending this form and transferring this out? So typically, the government has actually defined timelines for it. So if you're transferring funds from one cash ISA provider to another cash ISA provider, then the government has said that it should not take longer than 15 working days in order to transfer that. And if you're transferring from one stocks and shares ISA account to another stocks and shares ISA account, then the limit is 30 working days as a timeline. And this has actually been stipulated on the government website, and I'll bring that up on screen so you can actually see it. And if for some reason the ISA providers don't actually complete the transfer within the defined timelines, you have every right to complain to them. And if for some reason your complaint has not been appropriately addressed, then you can take that complaint forward to the financial ombudsman. And so the details of that are also on screen. Right, so that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope that's helped you out. If it did, please smash that like button and don't forget to hit subscribe in the link below. And I'll add all the details of all the links and details that I've discussed on this video in the description below. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Thank you.